Attention physicians, nurses, and essential workers. The device that's about to be described and that you will visually see, we believe is a COVID-19 possible physical Better PPE Solution. The EcoGuards organization needs your help in evaluating this hypothesis and the proposed practical applications of a theoretical device in order to assist with the rapid elimination or control of this SARS-CoV-2 contagion, otherwise known as COVID-19, that's found its way around the world. This video is intended as a presentation and should not be perceived as an accurate rendition of a medical device. It's intended to portray a plausible medical certified mechanism that is only being further protected for proper extensive research and development of its theorized potentials. The proposed device in this video is believed to be a rapid mobile viral preventative and isolation response that should help mitigate the R number for such contagions. This video has been created to visually aid and assist anyone that desires to know about our efforts, and also to help the EcoGuards, a division of JEMCO Inc. 1990, in the evaluation certification that should allow for quick manufacturing and then rapid deployment of mass amounts of these unique possible future innovative personal protection equipment solutions. Plus, it's also intended as a means to allow many in the medical community and many other individuals in reviewing a partial description of a possible different type of currently unsanctioned and uncertified, potentially beneficial, innovative PPE that must be further evaluated beyond our in-house capabilities prior to its further R&D, then testing, certification, and then production. In other words, it's believed that we need a great many quickly attained inputs from physicians of all stages of their lifelong learning careers and different doctorates, as well as nurses of all certifications, in the overall partial evaluation of this proposed device. Before we proceed with any further costly research and development, or further physical laboratory evaluations and medical certifications of such necessary devices. In order for the participants to truly understand this device and all the implications and proper functions, that's why this video is of such a length. For as much information as can be properly articulated must be shown in accordance to all our expectations. Those requested inputs from any valid physicians and nurses from any countries affected by this current pandemic may be sent to the email address found at the end of this presentation. Please comprehend, for the purpose of this presentation's overall integrity, Canada has been selected as the provisional test country in order to properly and quickly determine all the requirements for Health Canada's certification, which are some of the most stringent in the world. This could then allow for proper domestic, logistical, manufacturing, and distribution that may be possibly accomplished and properly achieved within this country and then elsewhere. Your attentions to this matter is greatly appreciated. May you all find the same level of dedications and comfort that you have given to many of your patients being expressed by all our efforts and gratitudes. The EcoGuards organization is a not-for-profit division of JEMCO Inc. 1990. Its operational titles, its research, and its developments of eco-solutions have been copyright, trademarked, and trade-named from 1987 through to 2020. With that said, we are pleased to present our Canadian Shield called the IntroSice device. Isolation, non-transmission, respiratory, overall, clear, integrity system. Introsize. This is a video description for a reusable, washable, disinfectable, and upgradable overall clear structured cranial protective apparatus, also used as a preventative viral inhalation and personal contagion quarantining safety measure, as is represented by the older Mark 22 version seen here. This image is from the first attempted clear structural conceptual design that was found to be lacking in many design elements. It was also determined to cost a great deal of money per unit, mostly because of its required manufacturing processes and overall assembly cost, which vary considerably from what will be attempted and hopefully achieved for the Mark 25 quick response versions. These future Introsize devices do truly appear different and are able to also be used with certain certified personal protection equipment such as KF94, 95, N95 and N99 disposable masks if desired or required. Understand that what is going to be described has been conceptually conceived and implemented in 1988 as part of an overall lightweight protective armored gear, and then further exhaustively designed in several forms, primarily because of the SARS appearance in 2002-2003. Although slightly differently titled, the Introsize device, which stands for Isolation, Non-Transmission, Respiratory, Overall Sealed Integrity System, Introsize, is part of these armored suits and always has been part of the 1988 to 2003 Mark I through to Mark 21 versions. The major difference was the fact that all of these past versions were not completely see-through apparatuses. The further enhancements that were made concerning the Introsize device were integrated into these further renditions, mostly in the later Mark 22 to 24 versions, from 2003 through to 2018. We'll delve into these aspects later. The current version, Mark 25, is the latest quick response rendition and has been designed and is more aesthetically pleasing. It will also be quickly and locally manufactured in a completely different manner than that of its predecessors. Moreover, because of the nature of what must be attempted and quickly achieved during this time, will further be attaining many opinions from medical professionals from this presentation's email collective. Then hopefully, depending on those responses, we'll be conducting further R&D, laboratory testing that may lead to the possible certifications from Health Canada of only the adapted protective headgear portion of these past real percussion armors. We'll then need to be quickly creating the proper logistical management team that will guide all the manufacturing of these devices en masse, then the assembly and deployment of these devices of a slightly lesser quality than the Mark 24 versions that are displayed in this video. For that version's containment sphere needs to be injection molded, and that's a much more expensive manufacturing process. Nevertheless, it's perceived and believed that they will work with their desired functions and purposes as a rapid R-factor mobile preventative and isolation device. For now, it will use small temporary daily replaceable N95 filtering slips known as TIRFs, which stands for Temporary Integrated Replaceable Filtering Slips, made from the same types of materials manufactured by 3M and Honeywell in their N95 and N99 disposable masks. This fact should also allow for mass manufacturing of these required round TIRFs by whatever other companies could be tasked with that goal. And the reason why we say other companies is because 3M and others are currently very busy manufacturing their N95 and N99 masks. It's believed that particle penetration and moisture levels for these TIRFs would be reduced due to their distance from the wearer's face. This theory or fact, whichever you believe, should help in keeping those filtering slips valid throughout a possible 8 to 12 hour shift, as long as they don't come in contact with viral droplets, blood, or any excretions of whatever nature that could be sprayed, which could compromise those filters, as is seen with disposable N95 masks. In that event, their replacement is easily achievable even while the person wears the device, but it's suggested within a clear, clean contained area, by first wiping the device with an antiseptic such as isopropyl alcohol while still on the wearer's head, then unscrewing the TIRF holding units and turfing those contaminated slip pieces in a biohazard container, then disinfecting your hands and then placing those TIRFs with valid slips, and then screwing those holding units back on. This presumed fact also allows for those TIRFs that are not contaminated to remain in place until their scheduled replacement times. In other words, why replace a filter that is still valid? For there are 6 attached to this device, and they're not all in the same location. For 2 are near the cheek zones, 2 for the hearing zones, and 2 others on the upper back of the head zone. Furthermore, these TIRFs are only a temporary filtering portion that can be permanently replaced once proper research and development of our new innovative virus neutralizing and copper structured filtering components is complete. These introcised devices have been designed to also allow for replacement of those temporary filters with conventional enhanced threaded connection type, 2 or 3 micron particle capturing screw-on filters, the same as those used on full facial respiratory masks, that can at most times be purchased online or at most medical suppliers, as well as through Honeywell, 3M, and so on. The lifespan duration should be extended for these temporary integrated replaceable filtering slips due to their placement of these TIRFs in the 6 places found within the introcised device. The introcised device was originally designed to be created with the use of clear polyethylene PET number 1 or polypropylene PP number 5 plastics, and a removable and replaceable plastic elastic ringed, slightly rubberized, cone-shaped neck sleeve or sock that is tightenable with a slip ring elastic type rope, with a formable, thin foam ring barrier around the lower part of the wearer's neck. The lower portion of this sock is intended to be put under collar of whatever desired clothing. The sock portion is designed to allow for easier movement and is believed to allow for full range of unrestricted motion at the wearer's neck. It's best to place the lower part of the sock under the collar, providing a better secondary filtering of a very minimal slight contact area of the neck, primarily intended for large particles. This fact also causes the rubberized neck piece to flex in towards the wearer's neck when inhalant breath is drawn, thus also causing a better seal. Nevertheless, it's still better than traditional disposable masks that allow more airflow and particulate to penetrate in a greater sensitive area of the head. It's believed that this apparatus will help to not allow many particles to pass through, whether either while the person breathes in or out, and while helping to prevent the distribution, transmission, and infection from many particleized respiratory harmful agents. That said, these current less expensive anticipated versions of the IntroSice device are not full quarantined positive pressure type or circulation type biohazard systems seen in many laboratories or mobile medical units. They are only an inexpensive first response mobile device system intended to prevent inhalation or exhalation of any further spreading of any particleized respiratory harmful agents, and are also intended to minimize the touching of the wearer's facial areas, as well as any other physical damage that may and has occurred from other tightly fitted current mask systems being used by many professional healthcare workers. It's believed that these IntroSice devices should also prevent anyone that is using them from being facially bruised, as is the case with many other types of tight-fitting masks, and also allow for proper circulation of the facial area. Further research and development, valid verification, and certification will need to be conducted for a greater protective gear type device to be produced at a later time. But that's also dependent on the research and development of our types of copper-laced filters that kill viruses to be used in the future, and any other further enhanced request design elements that would certainly drive the cost to a higher point. As with many medical masks, there are always gaps, regardless of proper fitting. This allows for particles, aerosols of viruses to pass beneath, through side gaps, or by way of hand contact, when people touch or adjust their masks. And this includes many full facial industrial grade respirators, military grade mask systems as well, but not expensive full enclosure and filtering systems seen in labs and mobile medical units. For the most part, all these types of disposable masks are only believed to be 55 to 70% effective, and that depends on pristine conditions and further factors that many studies indicate opposite facts. That said, those studies should be revised, for we believe they were flawed to begin with. We believe that the current N95, KF, and KN series masks being produced truly are limitedly effective at keeping anyone from becoming infected. The current evidence from South Korea indicates they're still better than not wearing any mask at all. However, that also has to do with how and why they're being used. That said, they appear somewhat better able to prevent the further spread of many viral agents, for they do limitedly help to prevent the spraying and splashing of such contagions. Although it's believed that in the public hands these N95 and KF series masks may do more harm than their instructions indicate. That said, physical distancing should actually help more, but not always, because that's dependent on many variables. And that's according to many past studies, as well as those on the effectiveness of filtering agents such as cotton and all the different fabrics and the N95 formulas of quad-layered and carbon elements, for those ratings of 95% effectiveness are only achievable within a laboratory, and that's through a sequence of tests that are completely sealed, non-movement, non-gapped filtering of contagions, not real, actual working environmental conditions that all physicians and nurses find themselves required to work in. Speaking about studies, several more recent studies display some interesting findings and facts that we believe everyone should be educated about. That's why we've placed their video and findings within ours. For The Sun, a United Kingdom news agency and broadcaster, has made part of these studies publicly known. Please note that the video you are about to view is a combined, copyrighted material of their respected organizations.
There may not be a more potent symbol of a global pandemic than the face mask. But despite their widespread use in other countries, in the UK, the government maintains they're not necessary.
Very different. But in terms of the hard evidence and what the UK government recommends, we do not recommend face masks for general wearing by the public.
Government advice is that only those in close contact with COVID-19 patients or people displaying symptoms themselves need to wear masks. It's in step with the World Health Organization and was, up until recently, the line taken by the US, but not anymore. The CDC is now advising Americans to wear cloth face coverings in settings where social distancing may be unattainable. In Austria, masks are mandatory in supermarkets and on public transport. And in Morocco, it's a crime not to wear one when out in public. So is it time for the UK to rethink the face mask? At the heart of the debate is how coronavirus spreads. Researchers know the virus is transmitted through pathogen-carrying droplets, which can be transferred between people via objects and surfaces, like door handles, or through airborne particles. When an infected person coughs or sneezes, droplets are expelled violently into the surrounding atmosphere. It's this airborne spread which has made lockdown and social distancing vital tools in combating the spread of coronavirus around the world. But as we learn more about how it spreads, some say these measures may not be enough. Dr. Boris Gorbanov is the technical director of Ancon Medical, a UK company which makes infectious disease detection devices. He says new research carried out by the company shows aerosols, which could potentially carry the virus, can travel much further in some settings than 2 meters.
Our model was used with data collected from previous research. Some of them related to current COVID-19, and some of them previous similar viruses. A model shows that a single cough can produce about 1,000 particles. And those particles in few seconds, 10, 20 seconds, 1 minute, can fly downwind quite a long distance. 25 meters easily, 50 meters.
The study was carried out using a computer model, which predicts how aerosol particles move in the atmosphere. Dr. Gorbanov found that introducing masks into the computer model scenario drastically dropped the rate of exposure to potentially infection-laden particles.
Using normal surgical masks, it's sufficient to get down concentration and chances of infection by factor of 10, sometimes by factor more than 10, 20, 30. However, it's a model and it needs to be proven in the real world.
It's similar to research conducted at Aalto University in Finland, which showed that in a supermarket setting, clouds of droplets coughed or sneezed from an infected person can permeate the surrounding area and linger in the air for several minutes. The scientists involved suggested people spend as little time as possible in enclosed spaces to limit their risk of being exposed to the lingering air droplets. Meanwhile, in America, Professor Lydia Boiba of MIT's Civil and Environmental Engineering Department has published research suggesting 2 meters is nowhere near enough to prevent the transmission of coronavirus. Her study is illustrated by some equal parts compelling and disgusting video footage. This is a sneeze, slowed down to 2,000 frames per second. At this speed, cameras captured potentially coronavirus-carrying particles being expelled up to 7 meters in a turbulent gas cloud. According to the research, the moist and warm atmosphere inside the cloud allows droplets to remain in the air for several minutes. In Asia, the wearing of masks has become a cultural norm for people displaying symptoms of illness. But as concerns that healthy carriers of coronavirus could be unwittingly spreading the disease amongst the population, many Asian countries have enforced the wearing of masks as a precaution against these asymptomatic people. But after a recent review of the research, the WHO has stuck to their advice that for healthy people, wearing a mask is not necessary. Why? Research suggests that when used by the general public, uneducated in the correct way to fit and wear masks, their level of protection against infectious diseases is negligible and can create a false sense of security for those who wear them.
With masks outside, I mean, if you're socially distancing, you're 2 meters apart from other people, the risk of the virus transmitting to you is very, very minimal. So what's the mask doing? If you are, however, face to face with patients who've got COVID-19, that's different. You know that they might be excreting the virus in their breath when they cough and they sneeze. So it's logical that a healthcare professional would have a good mask of high quality. There's no point having a mask of poor quality because you're breathing in through the tops of the masks, the side of the masks and underneath the mask. And if the virus is penetrating through the porous tissue itself, it's no good.
Another concern is that widespread use of face masks could lead to a shortage for those who definitely do need them, such as the doctors, nurses and other healthcare workers battling coronavirus on wards across the country. That's why in America, citizens are being encouraged to use homemade cloth masks and told explicitly to avoid surgical and N95 masks, vital kit for frontline health workers. What's not up for debate is that right now, the most effective way to combat COVID-19 is the advice you'll no doubt have heard already. Wash your hands and stay at home.
These introcise devices also will reduce any contact or tactile pressure placement on the N95 slip portions, known as TERFs, thus reducing any potential contact with these contagions, and also reducing any possible compression of the N95 formulated fabrics that human contact causes. This compression causes these N95, N99 disposable masks to lose their overall beneficial capturing capabilities or effectiveness for such viral agents. It's currently being brought up that some medical facilities are contemplating reusing these N95 masks. Understand that it may be possible, but only in certain circumstances, for those would need to have all metals removed from their sewn masks, for these can't be disinfected with any liquids, possibly only microwave or ultraviolet penetration. Furthermore, our founder once used to work with such mask systems and found many to be lacking in protective capabilities. For even full facial sealed respiratory masks allow very fine particulate materials to bypass the filtering stage. That said, the introcise device allows any person to choose whether to further protect themselves with other personal protection equipment, which is exactly what he used to do with these types of full facial sealed respiratory masks and fabric backup masks. As is currently being seen, many physicians and nurses are being exposed, infected, enduring sickness, and in some cases passing away because of this current virus. We're sure this is happening because of improperly fitted masks, as well as a false sense of protective abilities of these N95 and N99 masks, and the improper covering of eyes and ears, but probably because of tear duct and ear canal penetrations as well. May God bless those souls that have given their lives in helping those other infected individuals. That said, we can't allow this to continue, and that's why we've taken and given great amounts of our own unpaid time over the years into educating ourselves on the proper designing of such a creative, innovative device, and our designing of some new copper-laced filtering systems. For we truly feel and sense that all those that gave their lives would want someone to achieve this task. To be forthright and as forward as we can, there always seems to be great effort and great sums of money and research placed in the development of vaccines for such viral agents, as it should be, albeit even these efforts take great deals of time to achieve. But it seems that no equivalent effort or funds goes into research and development of a better preventative protection equipment that would help hinder the contact with those contagions. At least that's our perception. After all, many medical establishments are still using antiquated tech, like open-faced filtered masks and open-ended facial shields. And all those presumed creative, innovative companies that claim to be up to the challenge don't appear to be doing much other than producing their physically flawed masks, for those masks are not 95 to 99% effective. Only the filtering material is. We cannot afford to have anyone become contaminated, especially our healthcare system professionals, essential workers, and elderly, and to expect unregular manufacturers to quickly produce en masse complicated electromechanical respirators for hospitals may not be truly viable, at least not in the quantities that are being requested and required, but it's still necessary. Albeit, a preventative physical means for infection must be quickly attained to prevent the need for such electromechanical respirators, and regardless if the intro-size device looks strange or funny, it's something that's necessary. As is noted by many medical establishments and the World Health Organization, facial contact by way of unsanitary or infected hands is the leading manner in which many become contaminated. But that's a product of people that are unintentionally contaminating, spreading this viral agent by way of spraying this contagion when sneezing, coughing, and migrations, thus releasing aerosol versions and droplets of this virus on surfaces that allow for personal tactile contact. But it also doesn't help when many are asymptomatic. This intro-size device prevents hand contact with facial areas, whereby preventing the mucous membranes from becoming exposed to potential germs, viruses, or any such undesirables. It also prevents the spraying and further spreading of these viral agents, primarily because of its structural containment sphere. If used properly, the intro-size device also trains and reminds people when they're attempting at touching their face. Hopefully their future use will begin to make anyone using them more aware and cognitive of their tactile contact tendencies and memory muscle reactions, thus beginning to assist with the reprogramming of fundamental human self-facial touching traits. The intro-size device also prevents any such undesirables from gaining access through the tear ducts and possibly through the ear canals. Because of its design, all facial expressions can be fully and better seen by others in their profession, making for a more pleasant overall experience when dealing with many undesirable circumstances, such as wearing any restrictive mask or protective gear during pandemics of this nature. Understand that even an N95 mask is restrictive, and when used, they can cause exhalant breath to be pushed into the wearer's eyes. This fact possibly pushes viral agents found on the external surface of these N95 masks up into the eyes of the wearer, and all our eyes have mucous membranes and are all connected to our respiratory tract. Have you noticed that many N95 disposable masks are now having disposable plastic eye protectors added to them by medical frontline professionals. It's assumed to prevent the splash factor, but may not truly be. Anyways, just ask any doctor or nurse what it's like to look around and not know or recognize who you're talking to in your professional environment, primarily because of current protective gear such as masks, glasses, surgical caps, etc. This fact does make it more difficult to perform their job duties. As many surgeons are aware, they know who their teams are when conducting operations, for each person has their place and task. However, in a pandemic-type environment, those teams are everywheres, and it's really difficult to know who's where, and who's doing what. The intro-size device can also play a great role when attempting to help the general public, and also allows many patients to better recognize their physicians and nurses. Put yourself in a situation where you can't tell who you're speaking with, or the expressions they have on their face. A clear view of the physician or nurse's face would not only allow for better communications, but would set the patient at some ease, thus assisting at keeping them calm, and also helping to alleviate potential panic attacks, which seem to be on the rise in many societies. Understand, sadly, in some circumstances, the elderly will be getting further exposed, and when they are being treated by whichever medical professionals, they may become disorientated and confused. The current flimsy protective gear and the way people look like when wearing this concealing gear can cause those elderly to freak out at those medical professionals, and that's something we must really work hard at not allowing. For the safety of all involved is imperative. This lightweight device allows for full facial recognition, but even these could cause some people to think we're being invaded by spacemen and women, but at least you'll know they're human. Primarily because these devices are full clear sphere helmet type systems and add a level of physical protection to the wearer's head. That said, they're supposed to be 5 to 7 millimeters in thickness and have a fastenable, dense foam cranial cradle, very similar to a protective sports helmet or bike safety helmet. However, because of the quick response version needed, they'll be locally and quickly thermally manufactured at approximately half their original thickness. Now on to some other general public use, as is noted by personal experience. When attempting to enter any establishment, if you have a mask, a helmet, any such thing on your head that covers your face, security and peace officers don't like this, and because of this fact, it sometimes causes physical altercations that inevitably lead to hospital visits. The intro-size device allows any individual to plainly see the person's face and facial expressions. This is vital when in any social environment. This fact should help to reduce many possible negative altercations. This isolation non-transmission respiratory overall clear integrity system could also prevent anyone that has been exposed from potentially spreading further contagions around any area, for their heads would be in a containment vessel, thus helping to stop the spread of any viral particulate, aerosols, and droplets when they cough and sneeze, whether in any grocery store, transit system, or any close contact environment, and this includes pressurized airliners and other transportation methods, as well as cruise ship liners. Understand that those industries could also benefit from these intro-size devices if possible contagions become present during any journeys, or if they believe that a symptomatic individual or other concerning conditions occur. The captains of those vessels or onboard medical teams can deploy these introcise devices very quickly. To be frank, it's believed that these introcise devices could possibly relieve the pressure that many frequent flyers feel in their heads while the aircraft climbs to a higher altitude or while lowering in altitude, primarily because they may slowly balance the pressures in those given circumstances. Nevertheless, until further studies can be conducted, that's an assumption that we must put aside. But one assumption that we'll push is that in a pressurized cabin area, these introcise devices could prevent others from becoming contaminated by infected individuals. Now, because of those presumed facts, the further spreading of viral agents on many public hard surfaces should be greatly limited or diminished. Although some would argue that people that are sick will attempt to wipe their nose, this fact of wearing these devices should cause those that are that ill to remain at home. However, if they don't and choose to reach up into their introcise devices through their neckpiece, they will still limit our potential exposure, primarily because they'll not be shooting or spreading those viral agents many feet or further when they spray or splash while they sneeze or cough. That said, it would be preferred that any infected individuals remain quarantined, but many will not heed that call for whatever reason they may have, and yes, that includes needing to work at non-essential services, for employers that refuse to close their doors or accept physical notes or physician's notes when required. This device could also possibly assist in preventing all our frontline workers from becoming infected with those potential contagions, thus helping to set those workers' minds at ease as it pertains to going home at the end of their shift, or God forbid, further potentially spreading this virus to their families. Although no one was talking about potential transmission by way of our food sources for the first several weeks of this current outbreak, ponder this: it's only a matter of time that many will start to understand that this can and probably has happened. For if anyone that is potentially infected can cough or sneeze while viewing, holding, pinching, tapping unpackaged product like fruits and vegetables, when evaluating those possible purchases while shopping for groceries or other such times, like preparing food for restaurant takeout services, thus allowing for potential transmission of contagions and such infections. Although studies have not been done pertaining to this particular virus's ability to thrive on food, there is evidence that this virus can live on plastic, glass, and many hard surfaces for quite some time. In fact, some studies indicate about 9 days. But that could and possibly will change. One would have to postulate that the transmission point is active, for many fruits and vegetables have a skin that's very similar to some types of plastic, and some vegetables have a protective preservative wax placed on them. This everyday fact should be continually taught to all people concerning our need to wash all products and hands before use and consumption. Any physician that states these things can't happen should go back to school, or even potentially really think about whether they're in the right profession. And if you think that doesn't happen, think again, for we witnessed this very thing on CBC television over a week ago, where a particular physician indicated that our stomach acid should kill this virus. However, he never indicated that any virus that enters the respiratory tract could enter our lungs. As far as any medical profession is concerned, our mouths are part of our respiratory tract. Another thing that could happen is that floating airborne microparticle plastics, which many scientists and studies are now indicating have found their ways around the world through the winds and airs and waters, could possibly hold and distribute these viruses, mostly in close contact areas, but still further than 9 feet. And don't try and tell us it won't happen. It probably already is. And that fact would probably explain why some people are getting infected with this current virus without any contact with other contaminated individuals. In other words, we have a bigger problem than anyone wants to admit. Although paper and cardboard will not allow for any long-term life expectancy for this current virus, but many microparticle plastics could, and for longer durations, these intro-sized devices will also help to prevent such contaminations and infections from possibly occurring, for they can filter particle plastics from the air and also keep them from sticking to our hair. Truly understand, we don't indicate these possible contagion points because we want to frighten anyone. We make these points to highlight the need for better filtering systems to be developed and produced. Plus, we state these things in order to bring these points to people's attention, for knowledge is powerful, and it allows us to find and make solutions that could help prevent further possible contact issues. For we must all do what is required to keep our ecology and economy systems active. If this continues on this track, our societies are in for greater problems. For the most part, if these intro-sized devices are quickly created en masse, and our government first gets these to all needed manufacturing personnel, medical professionals, transportation experts, and farmers of all our necessities, that would go a long way in keeping our frontline workers safe and virus-free, not to mention keeping our much-needed supply chains active and well-stocked. Then quickly get these intro-sized devices to the general public and make it mandatory during any current or future pandemics to wear these when attempting any outside journeys or social gatherings. With that said, these devices should not be seen as a full guaranteed protective device. They're intended to assist in minimizing any potential exposure and only helping in minimizing of the spreading of such viral contagions. With that said, we all need to also continually follow all the World Health Organization's recommendations. As it stands, we're working at attaining a better complete pricing regimen for the full cost to produce these intro-sized devices en masse, and those facts require us to further educate ourselves on those intricacies. We'll also have to attempt to further contact many other companies that produce clamshell-type thermoplastic containers and packaging, or beverage and other plastics food-grade container manufacturers in this country. For those companies could truly help produce these en masse quickly after being retooled. That retooling would mostly be comprised of designing and creating molding units for their thermal machinery, and we're sure this can be done very quickly. That's also one of the main reasons this rapid, mobile, preventative, and isolation response intro-sized device has the form it does. That said, it also allows manufacturers in our country to help produce these quickly, for if we have to have these manufactured from places like China, then shipping durations and costs will change those quick response times and prices. Those costs are believed to be very menial in comparison to 3M's protective respiratory masks, like the one being displayed in this video, that were selling for well over 500 Canadian before this pandemic started, and that was on Amazon's website. Actually, the place where it's supposed to be the cheapest. That said, those mask systems would surely take a great deal of time to produce en masse, and they will still not achieve the same level of expectations as the IntroSize device. These IntroSize devices should actually cost less or comparable to producing a box of 50 of the 3M N95 disposable masks, and they'll also be 100 times better, primarily because they're reusable, refillable, cleanable, scalable, upgradable, and completely sealable. Plus, they cover every entry point within the respiratory tract, unlike the 3M versions of all their masks. And the only reason we indicate that is primarily because we perceive the ear canals as a possible viral entry point. Now, the 3M company and others that have great experience producing these types of N95 and N99 masks would still be the best companies to produce these turf units required for these IntroSize devices. But that's up to them whether they're interested in doing this or not, and we don't see any reason why they would not want to help. For we must all come together in this time of critical need. After all, they produce many of the N95 disposable masks, and the temporary filters used in these IntroSize devices are actually made from the same materials. Plus, they also manufacture other types of protective gear. So that fact should indicate that they are concerned about physicians and public safety. However, that may be a presumption on our part, for it may all boil down to financial profits, as is the true case with all corporations. We'll all see the truth of these matters in the very near future. These temporary N95 slip portion filters could be produced much more quickly because they would not need to be fully sewn masks. Those required for our IntroSize device are actually about 1 1/8 of an inch in diameter. Their design is actually the same size as the screw-on filters for many full-faced respiratory masks. It's also possible that these turfs could possibly be easily disinfected if microwaved, albeit that's a study that we'll have to conduct at a later time. Understand, our estimations are that we can produce enough of these IntroSize devices for every Canadian, probably within weeks or months, but surely before the next fall and flu season or the second and third waves of this pandemic. That does also depend on many manufacturers across Canada and their willingness to assist, and the proper retooling of their operations, or the current government's desire and ability to fund these rapid mobile preventative and isolation responses to the current pandemic and current economic crisis. Speaking about our government's willingness to fund this rapid mobile preventative isolation response, the other day during our Prime Minister's daily COVID briefing to the nation, a very important question was asked by a CTV reporter, asking our Prime Minister if the Government of Canada was prepared to purchase all products relating to personal protection equipment that any company were willing to retool or produce. His answer was yes. That answer indicates that the EcoGuards have a duty to begin production of the complete viable quick response Mark 25 IntroSize devices. Now we need to begin. Now that should still allow us 5 to 6 months of time before the possible second and third waves of this pandemic appear. That time should allow enough of a head start for proper R&D, and then either a directed coordination of manufacturers, and if not, then we'll proceed on our own. That also brings up another point. Currently, N95 disposable masks are being used for longer than recommended durations, and that's to be expected because of the lack of N95 masks that are in stock and being produced. Those recommended durations for the use of those masks, according to many studies, is because of the proximity to the wearer's face, as well as a great many other factors, such as moisture, tactile contact, that cause a compression of the mask's fabric, as well as so many other physical elements such as public contact spraying. That action of extended durational use does compromise everyone that is doing this, and those handmade fabric masks currently being seen on many news broadcasts that are sewn by all the many truly caring individuals because they believe they're helping in order to extend the N95 disposable masks' life expectancy, could and probably are actually further compromising anyone using them. For those N95 masks, sealed facial contact area are actually being increased in a thicker area with an improper filtering material, thus potentially allowing these contagions to enter the user's respiratory tract. Although many doctors are indicating that those masks should only be used by the public to prevent this contagion from spreading further. In other words, the contact point for the mask to the user's face have observable gaps, but those gaps are now 2 or 3 times greater in size, with an insufficient filtering material being used to increase those gaps' size. We truly understand everyone's desire to assist during this pandemic, but really, stop doing this, for they're creating an even further false sense of protection. And the other attempts to create our versions of this Canadian shield are truly nothing in comparison to our design and device. For their versions of the Canadian shield are so flimsy that they'll end up in the waste stream, and that will only contribute further to the particle plastics issue. We're telling you by this video presentation that so much true intellectual study, practical thought, and overall designing has led to the only proper physical means that every frontline worker deserves, for they all deserve better than that. That's just another attempt to cash in on the fear that this pandemic causes. In order to achieve a proper Canadian shield, great research and development needs to be conducted, as well as proper testing and then certification. And after seeing that Health Canada approved those other versions, we wonder if we should even attempt to deal with them, or possibly go to the United States. And the truth of that matter will be seen soon enough. These devices also prevent tactile hand contact directly on the turf's portions. Hopefully in the future, these introcise devices will use very new innovative flushable, cleanable types of threaded screw-on filters that actually kill viruses, not just hold it in on the surface or within the filter. However, for this instance, the turfs will do fine, mostly to keep the price point down, but to also allow for quick production times. These introcise devices can also be fitted with drinking lines that lead to a squeezable, sealed bladder cap system that's fastened at the person's underarm or hip, depending on that person's desire, that leads directly next to the wearer's facial cheek, that then is easily maneuverable by the wearer's lips when needed, thus allowing for quick access to clean fluids that will not come in contact with any such contagions, unlike having to place your hands near to your face with the N95 and N99 masks every time your wearer wants to take a drink. This will also allow the person to access these fluids without taking these introcise devices off their heads, hence allowing for such regenerative fluids such as Boost or any other types of nutrient-based drinkable substance to be consumed by the wearers, thus also helping many professionals of extreme dedications from going without much needed sustenance, for we've all heard stories about doctors and other individuals from seeking such much needed elements during such times, for they push themselves really hard to help others but truly don't consider their own well-being, at least in some circumstances. God bless those dedicated souls. These introcise devices have been designed not to interfere with Bluetooth earbuds or wired earbuds for telecommunication devices, hence eliminating any contact with disgusting, potentially contaminated cell phones to people's faces and ears. This device can also serve in many call center environments to keep all staff working and protected during such pandemics, thus alleviating their staff's concerns about becoming contaminated. These devices should also assist in the reduction of waste of latex gloves and surgical caps, which are used many times when current N95 masks are removed and then replaced. Moreover, that fact should help in maintaining these precious stocks of these required medical necessities for surgical or other emergency procedures. The fact that these turf portions required for our devices are only 1 1/8 inches in diameter also helps any company producing our needed slip portions. This will help in reducing the overall N95 formulated fabrics required. That fact should also allow many individuals to gauge whether they require several turfs to be used per connection point just for added safety. But that's dependent on many circumstantial variables and other conditions, but that's also under proper guidance as to whether or not these turfs could allow proper airflow when doubled up. For the same amount of materials used to create one N95 mask is enough material for 2 days worth of slip filters for one introcise device. And we're sure producing these slip portions would be easily manufactured in comparison to those sewn masks. That said, these introcise devices would be very much easier to put on and remove than current manner of placing surgical caps, then masks, face shields or goggles, etc., and this could possibly contribute in helping with response times in many medical situations and also helping to eliminate possible infections. These can also be used by many family physicians in their everyday practices. These Canadian shields could also protect the user/wearer from any potential spray of whatever they may be exposed to, whether by the patient or any other circumstances. We're actually considering in the future making them microwavable in order to maintain a super clean introcise system, but that's something that only the manufacturers can indicate is possible or not. And we're not sure if this will increase their price point, primarily because of the types of polypropylene PP number 5 and other types of plastics that we'll need to use. It will also be determined whether the N95 filtering slip portions will be disinfected by those microwaves, but that's just some more research and development that needs to be conducted. Nevertheless, those slip portions should be extremely easy to manufacture in comparison to the N95 disposable masks, for those masks need to be sewn. Regardless if they cost $18 or $25 each, the cost of not supplying these introcise devices to everyone is the potential cost of life and possibly a complete failure of our medical system and economy. We'll just say they cost $20 each. That's a total approximate cost of $752 million, for all Canadians to have one, and that's a really good price when you think about it. How much having this economy stop dead in its tracks is truly costing us, for our government has already committed over $100 billion because of this current viral outbreak. And who truly knows what the final true cost will be? Furthermore, these could also assist with other countries' needs for such isolation, non-transmission, respiratory, overall clear integrity systems. That fact could also help bring all our economies towards a better, quicker recovery. Ponder all the true implications, functions, and upgradability of these devices, and how much and how many people could return to work before a true vaccine is found and developed. For when everybody is properly self-fitted with these, then schools could reopen and teachers and parents could use these as great learning tools. It's also possible to have very young children begin to further express their creative sides by allowing them to create educational games based around these devices. In other words, make it fun for them to wear these and learn to maintain these. You never know, these may cause many young ones to show an inclination in joining the calling for future medical practitioners and scientists of all different doctrines. But the primary goal would be to teach every child the importance of these types of devices and how to take care of them, not to mention teaching them that creativity can always help in times of great need, as well as the necessity to keep our hands and faces clean, or our need to wash all our consumable products. Besides those necessities, many children will feel like Power Rangers or astronauts when wearing these. We're sure the accumulations of profound imaginations will change many children's lives. Our societies could slowly begin to get back to some sort of somewhat changed but still normal life, truly better than being quarantined at home for great durations of time, or even expecting our government to pay for everything that will inevitably cost future generations, and we're sure some politicians' careers. The fact that these devices are reusable and cleanable also allows for a better and easier means to protect medical professionals and the public beyond the current pandemic. And when pandemics of this nature occur, all the governments could alert everyone to start using their own intro-sized devices, thus quickly reducing the potential spread of contagions. This fact would inevitably help reduce the overwhelming conditions that occur in hospitals and medical facilities worldwide during such times. Everybody also truly needs to understand that because of climate change, the future potential for such contagions, if not worse, or should we say, are on their way. For even scientists are indicating that many such contagions are being released from our melting ice caps, and past zoonosis implies that those may mutate from animal amplification to human over time. The sooner we learn to deal with these types of events quickly, the sooner we can accomplish so much more that we humans require and aspire to. There are also so many other uses for these devices, like when the elderly need to go grocery shopping during regular flu season. For these devices, in combination with annual flu vaccines, could help them not get infected with these other slightly less infective but still deadly contagions. And when these intracise devices become commonplace, they won't seem so strange or out of this world. Now, that brings up a different thought concerning construction workers that must work year-round, enduring the weather in the winter. Understand that future renditions of the intracise device could keep all the parts of their heads super safe, dry, warm, dust and contagion and fine particulate free, as well as fully perceptual vision capable, which a hard hat is not capable of doing. But that's something we'll have to explore and study later, for there are a lot of regulations that have to be adhered to concerning those industrial versions. That also includes many other sports renditions that could assist with the mitigation of concussions, and the positive pressurized self-cooling and UV protected versions that we've conceptually created as well. Unfortunately, we currently don't have the financial means to truly produce the amount of devices required for our frontline workers, although we've worked hard for the last several months to have these produced, as well as all the work that we've done on the computer-assisted drawings since 2003, plus all the work of the conceptual perceived benefits, and all the studying of medical, industrial, and regulation compliance that goes along with it. That said, we're unable to produce these because that would need to be manufactured by many thermoplastics, styrofoam, and filter manufacturing companies, as well as those required to produce the copper lace filter versions. And all of them that we previously contacted want to be paid up front. In fact, there were actually some whom attempted to gain access to our designs. However, that's not going to happen until many other factors and certifications are achieved. With that said, we'll attempt to keep all of you informed on our progress, and hopefully this progress will be attained very quickly now that we've decided to no longer wait for some others to assist or collaborate with us. It's truly a great shame that others don't seem to want to listen when people with great ideas come up with innovative, creative solutions and products that could save many people's lives and also make our lives much better. Not to mention truly helping all our ecologies and economy systems. It also doesn't help that everybody wants something for themselves, even during times of this nature, or the fact that too many bureaucratic rules and regulations hinder proper progress. The images you've seen are a very unique design of a Mark 24 intro-size device that has been exhaustively perceived and created. This represents the closest overall appearance that we've achieved prior to creating the quick response Mark 25 rendition. We've taken the liberty to have it created within the model of a father prepared to give away the bride. Hopefully, this will assist you with a better understanding of the way we feel concerning giving away anything. But that's also why we're not giving it away. Like any father that gives the bride away, we're only entrusting the groom. We're aware that many people will say and ask, why is it shaped the way it is? Understand, there are very many reasons, and they're all related to manufacturing, safety, and overall functionality. Providing everything proceeds well, these devices should be manufactured in multiple piece sections that will need to be easily assembled once the recipient receives their own. And believe us, that does not affect the physical or overall integrity. This fact also makes these devices easily shippable, cleanable, storageable for future use. Please note that these images of this device show a slight green to the sphere, but the actual product will not have any color to these shields. As it stands, we believe at least 6 different sizes will need to be produced, and that's because not every person has the same size head. Children, for instance, will need to have at least 2 different sizes to choose from. Adolescents and teens will require 2, and adults will also require 2 sizes and possibly a few instances of custom versions. We would also be amiss in not considering the many individuals that require versions of these devices that will not have cranial foam inserts, only fabric adhesion material. thus allowing them to wear their religious emblems or garbs. That possibly should also allow for other types of innovations to be produced, for all thermoplastic manufacturers could make adjustable molding units capable of expanding and retracting prior to the plastics heating and stretching and forming. Now, if we start to move quickly to produce these, then all Canadian citizens can acquire one. Then we'll move on to other domestic needs, such as assisting our American brothers and sisters and further international communities. We only wish we could help everyone at the same time, but until we show a better logistical management of these matters, we're truly uncertain how to achieve these seemingly impossible tasks, especially with no funding. With that said, after attaining certification, should we prove the overall production systems required and then teach others to achieve these same goals, or should we manufacture these for the rest of the world? We think that we need to move now, and we'll figure the rest out, hopefully slightly later, but not too far in the future. For the true needs are exceedingly great, and we believe it is already taken too long to get it to this point. Moreover, there are indications that this first appearance of this contagion will or should subside towards the next month or so, but then quickly appear again in the fall through the next winter and flu season, and many experts are slightly indicating that the next time it may be worse. Nevertheless, that's also very dependent on the Southern Hemisphere's ability to quarantine and eradicate this pervasive contagion. Believe us when we say that we've only scratched the surface of what this device is capable of, or the benefits for this device. And now that you've seen this presentation of our Rapid Mobile Preventative and Isolation Response, also known as the IntroSice device, we ask that you assist us in supporting and funding this protocol by proceeding to our GoFundMe page entitled A Better Solution and donating whatever you can or whatever you would like to our efforts. Believe us when we say that your support is not only needed, it's imperative, and it's the only way that this can be achieved. For we attempted to have our government help, but they seem to have plans of their own, and for some reason they choose not to assist in any manner. This fact boggles the mind, because they seem to have an interest in spending vast amounts of money on a multitude of projects, and these projects all require that the people have some sort of a means to protect themselves from viral agents and other contagions, but yet nothing is being addressed when it pertains to that issue. Anyways, we are truly thankful for your time in viewing this presentation and any funding that you may allot to us is greatly appreciated. Sincerely, founder of the EcoGuards and JEMCO Incorporated, J.E. McCluskey. Physicians, nurses, and essential workers email responses may be sent to introsice1988 @gmail.com.